Welcome back to News Breakfast. Thank you very much for watching this morning. A second man shot dead by police after another night of unrest in Missouri.
I think officer safety is the #1 issue. So if you're the family of a police officer and somebody approaches you within 3 feet with a knife, I think you have the right to defend yourself and protect yourself.
Online terror. Islamic State militants post images of a beheaded American journalist.
Not a spectator sport. The finance minister takes aim at his budget critics.
The current debate about the budget is a bit like a spectator sport with a focus on how the contending teams are scoring. I mean, this is not a game.
Teetering on the edge, the massive hole threatening a Sydney apartment block.
The last 3 days there's been falls every night, so it's very unstable in there.
Still ahead on the show, the remarkable true story of the life and death of Mark Bingham.
I have to give my son credit for being the influence in my life that really helped me to grow.
He helped create the gay rugby movement, but his life was cut short in the September 11 terror attacks. We'll speak with his mother, Alice, about the award-winning documentary, The Rugby Player.
And in sport, bad news for Boomer. Brett Harvey suspended for 3 weeks by the AFL Tribunal.
The unrest in Missouri has taken a serious turn just in the last few hours. Police have shot and killed another man as tensions continue on the streets of Ferguson in St Louis. The man was shot after lunging at police with a knife as they responded to an attempted robbery.
For more than a week now, anger at the police has spilled over into violent confrontations over the fatal shooting of black teenager Michael Brown. Joining us now is Jane Cowan, who is in Ferguson. Jane, tell us what you can about this latest shooting.
Hi, well, the man who's died was black. He was 23 years old and he was allegedly trying to rob a convenience store. One witness has, according to police, described this as a kind of suicide by cop situation because the suspect was sort of egging the officers on, saying, "Shoot me, kill me now." They say he was acting erratically and that he was possibly displaying signs of being mentally disturbed. He was told to put down the knife that he was brandishing. He refused to do that, and police say that it was when he lunged towards police that both of the officers discharged their weapons. It's unclear how many bullets were fired, but he did die, and this is obviously bound to be seen by the people here as more evidence of heavy-handed treatment of a black community by mostly white police force. Let's have a look at how the police chief of the St Louis County Police, who are responsible for this incident, is describing it.
I think officer safety is the #1 issue. So if you're the family of a police officer and somebody approaches you within 3 feet with a knife, I think you have the right to defend yourself and protect yourself. So I think it certainly is reasonable that an officer has an expectation to go home at the end of the night.
So it's afternoon there, of course, where you are, and overnight we know that these protests have been continuing. Do you anticipate, and do the authorities anticipate, there'll be a backlash now against this latest shooting?
Certainly authorities here are saying that they expect things to get worse before they get better. This has become a nightly ritual now. During the day, as you can see, things are completely quiet, and really there's nothing more than the scars of the night before, with the boarded up buildings and people collecting the sort of damage from the ground and cleaning up the streets from the night before. But then it's when darkness falls that things go awry, and last night it does appear that there could have been as many as 70 people arrested, including journalists. It was originally reported that it was something like 30 people, but it appears from the local jail records to be many, many more arrests overnight. And the police did deploy tear gas again in the streets, and they were seen pointing heavy weaponry at citizens. And this all culminated in a pretty emotional press conference at about 2 a.m. here last night, where the Highway Patrol Chief, Ron Johnson, who is the black man who grew up in this neighbourhood and understands this community more than anybody involved in the leadership here, no doubt. He conducted this press conference where he was really imploring the community to not be defined by the criminal elements who are sort of hijacking the cause here, he says. He is asking the peaceful protesters to only come out during the daytime so that the police can distinguish between sort of the good guys and the bad guys here. He used that press conference to display 2 guns and a firebomb that he says were confiscated from protesters during the chaos last night. Let's have a look at what the Highway Patrol Chief, Ron Johnson, was saying.
We're going to make this neighborhood whole. We are going to make this community whole, and we're going to do it together. And I am not going to let the criminals that have come out here from across this country or live in this community define this neighborhood and define what we're going to do to make it right.
Captain Ron Johnson there. Jane, it is a community divided because there are those that strongly support the police and there is clearly that criminal element as well. And then there are those who are legitimately protesting what they see as an overbearance of police force against a black community.
Absolutely, and there really is no clear way to see how this comes to an end. Even for the peaceful protesters, it's hard to see how it ends until some sort of charges are laid against the police officer involved. That's what people want. That's what the family has been calling for. The mother of Michael Brown has been saying, particularly after the family's privately commissioned autopsy, the results of that were released showing that Mike Brown was shot at least 6 times, including twice in the head. After that, his mother was saying, what else do we need to present to have this police officer at least charged? We do have the prospect, Virginia, tomorrow of some progress on this front. The grand jury is likely to sit and consider in its weekly meeting all the evidence that's been gathered so far and to weigh whether or not there is enough there to justify the laying of charges. But there's a lot more upheaval ahead, obviously, because the funeral for the 18-year-old isn't due to happen until Tuesday, Australia time next week. So there's a long way to go before really any kind of healing begins here.
Jane Cowan, thanks so much for that update.